I came home for New Year's, flight delayed, bags heavy, heart soft. I expected food, noise, music, maybe laughter. Instead, I walked into silence. And there he was, my father, alone at the kitchen table, wearing his old cardigan, hands shaking slightly, chewing a dry sandwich like it was punishment. Next to him, a folded piece of paper with 6 words that cracked something in me. We used your money. New York. Take care of him. No names. No apologies. Just a command. A confession. A slap on line paper. My name is Alyssa. And from wherever you're watching this, stay with me. Because have you ever looked into the eyes of someone who raised you and realized they were the leftover in someone else's vacation? I crouched beside him, brushing crumbs from his lap. Did they tell you? I whispered. He just shook his head. They said we'd all go together. But they didn't wait. They took the money I'd sent for all of us. The money meant for a rare memory, a family reset, one good night to make up for the years of fractured dinners and phone calls filled with excuses. And they left him here like a chore, like a task handed to the daughter who always showed up. I tucked him into bed that night, made him tea, held his hand like I was the parent now. And I promised myself something. They would not get away with this. Because this wasn't just betrayal. This was abandonment wrapped in entitlement. And they thought I'd just swallow it. 3 days later, there was a knock at my door. Loud. Desperate. I opened it to find them. My sister, my brother-in-law, and my mother. Makeup smeared, eyes wide, coats half on like they left in a rush. Alyssa, Mom breathed. We need help. Something's happened. I leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed. Oh, I know something's happened. And for once, I wasn't the one left behind. They looked ruined. Cold wind slicing at their cheeks, lips cracked, eyes red. Not from grief, but from guilt worn too late. Mom clutched her designer bag like it could still protect her. My sister, Hannah, wouldn't meet my eyes. And Brandon, her perfect husband, stood behind them like a statue cracked at the spine. Alyssa, Mom said again. Let us in, please. I didn't move. You left Dad with a sandwich and a note, I said. But sure, let's pretend manners matter now. Alyssa, we didn't know he'd. Hannah started. Didn't know he'd what? Notice you robbed him of his holiday? That he'd sit in silence while you drank cocktails under a skyline he paid for? I could see them flinch. Good. They deserved every sharp syllable. But I stepped back. Opened the door just enough. Not out of mercy. Out of curiosity. They walked in, dragging the cold behind them. We didn't spend everything, Brandon mumbled. No, I said flatly. You left enough for 2 loaves of bread and a bottle of mustard. How thoughtful. My mom collapsed into a chair. We thought you wouldn't come. You never do. That hit, because I always came. To every funeral, every crisis, every sick day, every forgotten birthday that I remembered for them. But they only saw what was convenient to ignore. You've taken advantage of me for the last time, I said. Brandon opened his mouth, but I cut him off. I checked the account. I know exactly how much you drained. Right down to the spa receipt, Hannah. My sister buried her face in her hands. Mom finally cracked. He fell. My stomach dropped. What? Dad. 2 days ago. In the kitchen. No one was there. He hit his head. He's in the hospital. And just like that, rage mixed with ice. You left him. Then he fell. And now you come to me. Hannah sobbed. We didn't think he'd be alone that long. That's the problem, I said. You didn't think. I walked to the door and opened it again. Go, I said, before I throw every receipt of your betrayal in your faces. Alyssa, Mom pleaded. I'll take care of him, like I always do. And as they stepped back into the cold, I realized I wasn't angry because they left. I was furious because they expected forgiveness before I ever got an apology. And they still didn't understand. I don't break anymore. I break back. The hospital smelled like antiseptic and silence. Dad was asleep when I got there, bruised, hooked to fluids, pale in a way that made my heart shrink. The nurse said he hadn't asked for anyone. He just kept muttering 2 words in his sleep. She knew. And I did. I knew they'd fail him the moment they boarded that flight. I sat beside him, held his hand, and whispered, "I'm here now." Because I was always there. The invisible net. The background fix. The one they never thanked but always needed. But this time, there would be a cost. By morning, Dad was awake. His eyes fluttered open slowly. When he saw me, they filled, not with relief, with shame. "They left," he rasped. "I know. I didn't want you to find me like that. But you knew I would," I said gently. "Because they never come back. Not when it matters." He tried to sit up. I helped him, adjusting the pillows like second nature. "They drained everything," he said. "The vacation fund, the emergency savings, even the joint account." I nodded. "They left you with a sandwich and a goodbye." His lip trembled. He looked down. "I let them take too much." "No," I said, my voice harder now. "You gave them too much." And suddenly he looked older. Smaller. As if seeing, for the first time, what he'd raised. That night, I stayed in the hospital room, laptop open, phone buzzing with notifications. Because I was done playing caretaker in the shadows. I filed fraud claims, froze every shared account, flagged every transaction, canceled their access to everything. And then, I called my attorney. "Draft the documents," I said. "Power of attorney. Sole financial control. All of it. I want them cut out." The next day, Hannah called. "We can't access anything," she snapped. "Our cards aren't working. The landlord says the rent bounced." "Good," I said. "Must be hard living without someone else's money." "You can't do this," she hissed. "We're family." "No," I said calmly. "You're family by name, not by action." She hung up on me, and I just smiled, because they thought I'd forgive like I always did. But they forgot. This time, I'm keeping score. By the end of the week, they were everywhere. Missed calls, voicemails, emails with subject lines like urgent, "Please, Alyssa," and my favorite, "You're being cruel." Full? No. Cruel was leaving your father alone with a weak heart and half a sandwich. Cruel was draining an account under the lie of family bonding. Cruel was assuming the daughter who paid for everything wouldn't notice, because she never complained. Now they were cut off. No more joint access. No more emergency wires. No more me. Mom texted first. "We made a mistake. We just wanted to feel special again. We didn't think he'd get hurt." Special? She wanted Times Square selfies while Dad bled onto the kitchen tiles. I didn't reply. Instead, I sat next to him as the doctor reviewed his discharge papers. He was healing slowly, quietly, asking for very little, except me. "I've been watching you," he said one morning, voice soft. "Yeah." I smirked. Impressed by my revenge arc? He chuckled, winced, then turned serious. "No." "I'm ashamed." I looked at him. Really looked. "You let them bleed me dry for years," I said. "Because it was easier to see me as strong than see them as selfish." He nodded slowly. "I didn't protect you. You protected the ones who smiled louder," I said. And it was the truth. No venom. Just clarity. Later that night, I received a voice memo from Brandon. His voice was shaking. "Please, Alyssa. We're behind on everything. Hannah's job just let her go. Your mom's card declined at the pharmacy. We were stupid. We were greedy. But please don't let us drown." I played it twice, then forwarded it to my lawyer. "Attach this to the claim," I wrote. "Let the bank know. Admittance is on record." They thought I was cold now. But the truth? I was never cold. I was just done lighting myself on fire to keep them warm. That weekend, Maya, the neighbor who used to babysit me, brought a casserole for Dad and said, "Word's going around. They say you froze your own family." I smiled. No. I just finally believed they weren't mine to begin with. Because blood makes you related. But betrayal? Betrayal makes you certain. By the second week, they started showing up in person. I was carrying groceries up the porch steps when I saw Hannah pacing by the front gate, hood up, face drawn. She spotted me and rushed forward. "Alyssa, wait please." I didn't stop walking. She caught up anyway, breath hitching. "I know I don't deserve to be here, but Mom's not well. She hasn't slept. She keeps asking about Dad." "Funny," I said, unlocking the door. She didn't ask about him when she was halfway through a Broadway matinee. She winced like the truth stung worse than a slap. "We thought." "Don't." I cut her off. "Don't tell me what you thought. Tell me what you did." She blinked fast. "We left. We took the money. We said we'd be back in 2 days, but extended the trip without telling anyone. We used your name to upgrade the hotel. We ignored his calls." There it was. Confession. But not apology. She wiped her eyes. "It was stupid. Reckless. But we didn't mean for him to get hurt." "No," I said, voice low. "You meant for me not to find out." She opened her mouth, but I shook my head. "You've always been good at escaping consequences, Hannah. But this time? They're at your front door, and no one's answering for you." "I'm trying," she whispered. "Try harder," I said, and stepped inside. That night, Dad and I sat in the living room, watching the fireplace crackle like it was exhaling years. "Your sister came by," he said. "I know." She looked like she hadn't eaten in days. "She looked like me," I replied. "The version of me you ignored when she was paying all your bills." He didn't argue. Because he couldn't. He finally saw the weight I'd carried without asking for applause. "I should have protected you from all of this," he said, almost to himself. "But you didn't," I replied. And I stopped waiting. The next morning, a letter slid under my door. In my mother's handwriting, a shaky note that read, It was a terrible mother to you. I used you. I let them worship your sister and starve you of love. I don't want money. I want peace. Please teach me how to make this right." I folded it, tucked it away, because forgiveness wasn't something I gave out anymore. It was something they had to build, brick by brick, alone. For once, I didn't reply. Not out of cruelty, but clarity. They needed to sit in the silence they created. They needed to feel the weight of what it meant when the daughter they never valued disappeared from their safety net. But something strange happened that week. Dad began to heal faster. He was still stiff, still sore, but lighter. He started reading again, watching documentaries, smiling even. "You seem better," I told him as we made tea one afternoon. "I am," he said, "because I'm not pretending anymore." I turned to him. "What do you mean?" He looked down at his hands, ashamed but open. "All these years, I let them make you the villain, because it was easier to believe their flattery than admit I failed as a father." I said nothing, because what you say to a man who let your worth be measured by how little you complained? He continued, "You never once asked for anything, just gave. And I let them call you cold for setting boundaries. I let them take until you were empty, and then asked you why you looked tired." His voice broke. "I don't deserve you." "No," I said quietly. "You don't." He nodded. No protest. No excuses. Just the quiet weight of truth. That evening, I opened my laptop, logged into the fund they'd siphoned from. The one I built from late-night consulting jobs and saved bonuses they never noticed. It was nearly gone. But I wasn't. I drafted 3 certified letters. One to Hannah, one to Mom, one to Brandon, each with a single-page contract. If you want peace, earn it. Repay what you took. Monthly installments. No interest. No contact until the balance is cleared. Then and only then we talk. Aaron watched as I sealed the envelopes. "You sure about this?" he asked. "I don't need their guilt," I said. "But I won't let them walk away clean. Because sometimes revenge isn't fire. It's paperwork. It's boundaries they can't sweet-talk past. And when they opened those letters, they'd realize the debt they owed wasn't just financial. It was emotional. And this time, I wasn't the one footing the bill. The first payment arrived 2 days later. A trembling $50 transfer from Hannah's account labeled, "For January." I'll send more next week. I promise. It wasn't the amount that mattered. It was the fact that she pressed send without calling me first. No sob story. No manipulation. Just silent effort. The next morning, Brandon emailed a copy of his paycheck stub and a note. I'm picking up weekend shifts. We'll pay this off. We should have done better. Mom, though, was quiet. No payment. No message. Just the memory of her handwriting. The apology I still hadn't answered. Dad was the one who broke the silence. She's scared of you, he said one night as we sorted through the stack of hospital bills. Your mother. I scoffed. She should be. Not because you're cruel, he said, but because you changed. You stopped needing her approval. That terrifies her. I looked at him. Do you still love her? He nodded. Yes. But I love her with my eyes open now. That hit harder than I expected, because for years, I had loved them all with my eyes closed. And it had cost me everything. That weekend, I drove Dad to his favorite park, the one with the wooden benches and the tiny ducks that always gathered near the bridge. We sat in silence, the kind that doesn't ache anymore. And he turned to me, his voice soft. I was wrong to let them drain you. I didn't answer, because he'd said it before. But this time, he pulled something from his coat pocket. A check. Folded neatly. Signed over to me. It's not everything, he said, but it's mine, not theirs. I cashed out my retirement early. I want you to have it. I don't need it, I said quietly. I know, he replied, but I do. I need to give back what I can. And just like that, I realized he wasn't trying to buy forgiveness. He was trying to be better. That night, I wired the money into an account labeled Restart. Not for them. For me. Because I wasn't just closing chapters. I was building the ending I deserved. And all that was left was one last visit. One final reckoning. With my mother. I didn't call ahead. I just showed up, quietly, deliberately, outside the apartment they downgraded to after I froze the accounts. The curtains were drawn. The lights were dim. The golden glow of her old world was gone. She opened the door slowly, and for a moment, we just stared at each other. Her hair was pulled back. No makeup. No designer scarf hiding the lines on her face. Just a woman stripped bare of excuses. Alyssa, she breathed. You came. I nodded. This isn't a reconciliation. I know. I'm not here for closure. I wouldn't ask. I'm here to say something I never said before. I told her. Something I wish I'd screamed the night you left Dad with a note and a sandwich. She lowered her gaze. You taught me that love was a transaction. That if I kept giving, I'd eventually be enough, I said. But I finally learned I never had to earn your love. I just had to stop needing it. She blinked back tears, but I didn't soften. You left a man you claimed to love because a photo under the Times Square ball mattered more than keeping a promise. You used my money, my loyalty, my silence. And now you want grace. She nodded slowly, a single tear falling. I don't deserve it. No, I said. You don't. She reached into the drawer and handed me an envelope. Inside, a check for $3,000. My savings, she whispered. I've been putting a little away each month. I know it's not enough. I tucked it back in and slid it across the table. You'll pay me in full, just like the others. She closed her eyes and nodded. I stood, ready to leave. But then she looked up. Do you hate me? I paused. No, I said. I outgrew you. And that hurt her more than anything I could have screamed. Outside, the air was sharp and alive. Aaron was waiting in the car, engine humming softly. As I slid into the passenger seat, he asked, How do you feel? I smiled. Clean. Because this wasn't just revenge. It was repair. Of boundaries. Of worth. Of self. And when I looked back at the building fading behind us, I felt nothing. Not rage. Not longing. Just peace. Because for the first time in my life, they didn't know me anymore. They paid for what they broke. And I finally got to keep what mattered.